Hello, my lovely people. It's Queen Agnes. Welcome to QueenTv, where I encourage you to be earnest, and and over-empowered. So, as you can tell by the title, today we're doing part 4 of our Relationship Goal series by Pastor Todd from Transformation Church. So, the title of part 4 is called Keys to Marriage, and Pastor Mike goes into 4 keys that are very important in marriage. And so the first bullet point he makes is marriage is a reflection on the relationship between God and the church. And he goes more into it as he is making his presentation. And so I just wanted to read an Ellen G. White quote that she says this in the Messages to Young People, and it reads, "Marriage between believers and unbelievers is forbidden by God, but too often the unconvinced heart follows its own desires, and marriages unsanctioned by God are formed." So before I really dug into marriage and relationships, XYZ, I used to think this was ridiculous because I would always hear older folks saying, like, you shouldn't marry someone who doesn't have the same faith as you, blah, blah, blah. And I used to be like, that's ridiculous, as long as you're in a good place with God, then what's wrong with doing that? But as I have been reading and studying about, and hopefully after these series, you'll be able to come to the same conclusion and agree with this point and this advice that Ellen G. White is giving us. It just goes hand in hand with what God is saying about relationships and going about with different people. So after we see what marriage is, then I think we come to the conclusion on our own. So the next point that he goes into, and he goes straight into the first point, is the first key is marriage was never meant to be just between two people. God must be the cornerstone. God is love. God is the mark that real love is giving. So this verse in Ephesians 5:25 to 27 should clear that up. And it says, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word, and to present her to herself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless." So here we see, and just like the first bullet point, how Christ loved his church. And that's an example of a marriage, how a marriage between a husband and wife should be. And that real love that God displayed to its church, her church, is the same way a husband should love his wife. So that's how we know the example of true love and real love that we should have in our relationships. So the next point says that in a marriage, couples are supposed to grow up to God together. So we're supposed to grow up to God together. And there's this display that I will have here on the screen. And as you can see right here, you have the wife and the husband on the bottom, because there's 2 of them. And see, and they start from a place when they get married, and as they continue developing, they're supposed to be growing to where they reach God at the top, and they're growing together. And that's what a marriage is. It's not just a husband and wife, but all 3 of them together to make a perfect triangle. And doing this, growing up, and Pastor Mike makes this point, I was like, yep, this is so true. Like, growing up together with God takes a lifetime. It takes a lifetime. So it's not like, okay, so we're going to grow together in God for the first 3 months of our relationship, for the first 2 years. It's literally till the day you die. You grow together. We can never get too much of God. We can never get to that level of perfection. We always have to be growing together in God. We can't just one day decide, oh, I've had enough, like, I'm good now. No, we always must continuously grow and grow together in God. And we can do this, and he mentions a few things. We can by having personal devotion and prayer and worship. And so in everything that we do in our lives, we must put God in the center. Must put God in the center. And when God is in the center of everything, marriages just work out so much better. When God is the center of our marriage, especially, our marriage will work out good because God is in the middle of it. And when relationships don't work out, it's because God was not in the middle of those relationships, and he was not always at the center of everything. Then he goes into his second key to marriage. It says, know the difference between what your spouse needs and what your spouse wants. Know the difference between what your spouse needs and what your spouse wants. And I am so glad that he made this the second point, because oftentimes we don't know what our spouse needs, what our spouse wants. We like to blend them together. But once we know what a spouse needs versus what he wants, then we're able to know what we need to make sure that we're giving them, because that's what they need. It's not what they want, but what they need. And so sometimes we are left like, am I asking for too much? That's where we end up being like that, or where spouses be like, oh, you're asking for too much. But when we know what a person needs, we're not gonna burden them with the question of you're asking too much, because it's what they need, and they deserve that. They deserve that to the fullest. So that's what we're gonna get into. He gets into the three things that a guy needs, and then he gets a woman needs, and he gets into 3 things that men need. But before he gets into that, he makes a point that says, he points out that 3 things that only God can give you. And it's so important that we don't mix these things. And we've saw some of these things in the first 3 series that we had, the things that only God can give you and no other person can. And we shouldn't expect our spouse to give us these things, because we're just going to end up making them unhappy, and we're going to end up feeling like they're not satisfying us because we're requiring of something they absolutely can't give to us. Only God can. And these 3 things are identity, purpose, and accept you. Like truly, truly, truly accept you. Okay? So God already did these things. God is already giving us a purpose, gave us a purpose. God is always giving us an identity, gave us an identity. God accepts you no matter what. I'm telling you, no matter what. He literally knows us, but he still accepts us. So we try so hard to get these 3 things from other people, but other people cannot give us these things. Only God can. God is the only person who can give us these 3 things. So we need to stop trying to receive these 3 things from other people, because they're not able to give us these 3 things. So we're gonna dive right in. He dives right into 3 things that a woman needs. Not 3 things that a woman wants, but 3 things that a woman needs. And here they go. So a woman needs security, affection, and a communication. When it says that a woman needs security, us as women, we need to know that we're safe. We need to know that a man is able to protect us, whether that be financially, whether that be physically, emotionally. We need to know that a man can provide us that security. We don't want that, we need that. Okay, then the second thing is affection. And affection can come in a number of ways. Affection could be through physical touch. Affection could be through words, and like saying, just the little things like buying flowers or saying, you look nice today, or I love this more that you cooked for us. So it just depends on the type of woman, but we need that affection. So when a man tries to deny women of this thing that he needs, at the end of the day, he's only punishing himself, because that's what a woman needs. So you can't take away what a woman needs and then get mad that she's acting different, because you're taking away something that she needs. So once we know these things that woman needs and these things that man needs, then we know how to handle ourselves. We can't go around taking away things from our spouses that they need. It's just not fair. Then the day you're going to be punishing yourself. And then the third thing is communication. Women, they don't want they need communications. Like us women, we're very vocal. We love talking. We're emotional beings. We need that communication. We need to be certain. Even though actions do speak louder than words, we still need you to verbally say something. And that's how we understand and comprehend. And communication is just really important to us women. And that's why women absolutely need these three things in marriage: security, affection, and communication. Then we're going to go into 3 things that men need. So the 3 things that men need are honor/respect, support, and sex. I made a note here of what Pastor Mike was saying about honor and respect. So as women, and when he did this part, he did it with his wife. So they were both speaking on this, and I was like, wow, like I just really like this so much. And it's not only from him. I watched others sermons and stuff about marriage, and they all just go so in line with what this word is saying and what the word of God says. So what's her name? Pastor Mike's Michael Todd, I forgot his wife's name, but she was saying that as women, we have to allow the men to fail. For example, she was saying we can't be telling guys things like, oh yeah, I told you so. As women, we must see him for what you want him to be. So we have to encourage him, okay? So for example, we have to say things like, you can do it, you can do that. Like we have to manifest like the things that we want in men. And so we have to show him that level of respect. And we have to be willing to, like, men like to feel like they're empowered, and they like to feel like they can do it. And so as women, it's our job to make sure they feel like that, to make sure they feel respected and honored. And if they do something, we have to bring that attention, like, wow, man, you can do this. Like, we have to bring them up. And that point that she makes when she says that you have to see him for what you want him to be. So if you want him to be a millionaire, you speak it into him. That's the kind of power we have, to where we speak it into existence. And the more we are speaking on it, he's gonna come and bring it to life. And I'm gonna insert a clip.
So good.
Yeah, I did.
Like, oh my gosh, I've never seen you clean floors like that before. That's
Boy,
awesome.
I missed to clean them mugs this week.
I've been telling him he's so strong. He's been working out. I'm like, babe, you are so strong. I'm just trying to encourage what I continue to want to see, you know?
But hear me. What you don't realize is, women, you are the prophet in your home. You can literally speak into existence what's not there. And men will rise to the occasion because they have the belief. Literally, on our sabbatical, my wife said, baby, I think you can make this house bed for our daughter. And I ain't never done carpentry like that in my life.
So you can do that.
She said, you can do that. I said, I can do that. I can do that. And I did it.
You did.
Now, hear me. I did it because I had somebody speak into my life what she saw was a possibility. And I had her support.
Second thing that man needs, which is support. Like, as women, we have to be there to help the men. That is our job. That is a role as a wife. as a woman, we have to be there to support our husband. And then the third thing that men need is sex, and of course sex within marriage. And when Pastor Mike's wife was talking about this, she was speaking how like some women and even in marriage, they like using sex as a punishment for guys, and they're like, you know, nah, I don't feel like it, like, because they're lazy women that don't realize that men need this thing. Men need this thing. If they don't want it, they need it. So because a lot of women fail to see this, most of the times we like to punish men with, oh no, like, I'm not gonna give it to you for this much long because you did this and this and this. And I'm not saying to do something you don't want to do. It has to be consensual, but don't use it as a punishment because if he doesn't get it from you, he's gonna go get it from someone else because, like I said, he needs this thing. Then he goes into his third key, which is communication is crucial. Communication is crucial. It is important. I cannot emphasize this enough. Communication is one of the most important things in marriages. And since a lot of people don't communicate, that's why a lot of these relationships nowadays are dying and ending because there's no type of communication. A lot of problems that happen won't be happening if there was the proper amount of communication taking place. And one way we can do this and communicate better is knowing love languages, knowing your partner and your spouse's love language, so you know how to satisfy them. Because say your partner's love language is words of affirmation, but you're always buying them things and that's not their love language, then of course, even though you feel like you're spending all this money and time to get them these things, they're still not happy with it because that's not their love language. And you're ever wasting all that time when you could really be doing something that to you might seem so little, but to her could be the whole world. So it's very important to know your partner's love language, so that way that you're able to satisfy them and that you're able to know what to sacrifice your time and money on. Your words are either building up the person you want to be married to or tearing down the person you have to be married to. So, like, this is really emphasizing how important words are. Like, I realize this, and that's why I try to be so careful what I say to people, because your words can literally go so far for someone. Like, you can say one sentence to someone, and that sentence can break someone down. Or you can say one sentence to someone, and those words that you say to them can be the building stone to them getting a better life. So words that we say, and it's the same with your marriage, like that's your spouse, you know, you take what they say to the heart, you take it seriously. So the words that we say to each other in a marriage is so important because they can tear down this person or build them up. And if you tear them down, guess what? You're in a marriage. Now you have to be married to this person instead of being married to the person you want to be. Like, it brings me back to the thing about the woman thing, you know, you manifest what you want in a man. So if you have these positive words that build him up, he's gonna be built up into what you want him to be, and that causes a good relationship. But if you always have all these negative words and words that just bring each other down, then you're just bringing each other down, and there's no way y'all gonna be building and building because there's negative words being put out there. In 1 Peter 3:1-4, it says, "Wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husband, so that if any of them do not believe the words, they may be won over without words by the behavior of their wives. When they see the purity and reverence of your life, your beauty shall not come from outward adornment, such as elaborate hairstyles and the wearing of gold jewelry or fine clothes. Rather, it should be of your inner self, the unfading beauty of a gentle and quiet spirit, which of good worth and good eyesight. And first of all, this verse is a tough one. This verse I find to be very controversial. So I'm gonna make an entirely different video on just those verses alone. 1 Peter 3:1-4. And if I do not remember, guys, remind me. But I'm pretty sure I will remember because I've been looking at it for the past few days. But this verse itself is something that I need to come back to later because it is just so controversial. There's just so many things that we can take out from this. And I also want to do a series on women and women roles and how women should be in their households and how girls and women should be and carry themselves, whether it's the inside, the outside, everything. I want to do a new series on my channel about that. And because as I'm learning, I want to share what I'm learning and where I stand and stuff like that. But today we're just talking about marriage on both sides. So I don't really want to get into it. Our word choices and our tone matter in marriage. So when we're married, we have to be careful of the word choices that we use with each other and the tone that we talk to each other. And I know especially as women, sometimes we can be very vocal and emotional, and sometimes we let emotion override us and we just talk a lot. That's why especially I feel like this verse is really speaking to women. We have to be meek and quiet. And this verse is telling us that we have to speak with respect and we have to let them know and let each other know. We have to respect each other. We have to watch how we talk to each other, you know? Like, that's not your dog, that's your husband, that's your wife, and that level of respect has to be there. Brings us to our fourth key is never pause the pursuit. Never pause the pursuit. So he says that destination isn't marriage. It's death do us part. Death to us part. Marriage is not the final destination, okay? Yes, it is a finish line, but at the same time, it is a starting line. Don't ever stop the pursuit. Don't ever put a pause to it. Like at the beginning when y'all guys were dating, y'all were chasing each other and pursuing each other and it was exciting. Don't stop that. Marriage should not be what makes you stop doing that. So that is very, very important and very important. I feel like when people get married, they just get stuck. And so that's why they end up being like, oh, we fell out of love because or we finish our honeymoon stage. Your honeymoon stage should be throughout your whole marriage. This level of pursuing each other should never be put to an end or pause. It should be continuous and ongoing. And these are the 4 keys to having a successful, godly marriage. Well, that is it, my lovely people. Thank you for tuning in on the episode Try Again This Time with God. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you for part 5.